The fork, meant for steak, was driven into the back of my neck. I didn't dare tell him. I was so afraid of not being chosen by him, of being discarded. I hid the wound for days, hoping it would heal on its own. He was so busy, you see. Busy with his work, busy visiting our son in the hospital. He never noticed. By the time he finally saw it, the flesh was already infected, necrotic. He didn't say a word. He just turned and punched the wall again and again, until his knuckles were split and bleeding, his blood staining the plaster red. He seemed to feel no pain at all as he silently took me to the hospital. They told me my gland had to be removed. He didn't trade to believe my story. He refused to believe that his fiancée copyright had done this to me, a deliberate act of cruelty to erase the mark that bound me to him. He just looked at me, his eyes cold and distant, and said I was going crazy. My life had been signed away as collateral, a debt my father could never truly repay. It all started after I presented as a superior omega. My family, already fragile, shattered completely. My father, an inferior alpha, became consumed by a venomous suspicion. He looked at me, at my mother an inferior omega like himself and saw only betrayal. He would point a trembling, accusatory finger in my face, his voice thick with liquor and rage, insisting I couldn't be his biological child. My mother trade's pleas for a paternity test fell on deaf ears. Her denials only fueled his paranoia. He sought solace in the bottom of a bottle, in the fleeting comfort of other women, and at the gambling tables. He became a man without shame, spreading vile rumors about the woman he had once promised to love, painting her as unfaithful to anyone who would listen. Our home became a battlefield governed by the unpredictable tides of his luck. When he won, a hollow, manic joy would fill him, and he trade come home drunk and celebratory, his slurred praise almost as frightening as his anger. But when he lost, the house would shrink under the weight of his despair. He trade stumble in, reeking of failure and cheap alcohol, and my mother would become the target for all his frustrations. His fists would fly, his words would cut, and I would throw myself between them, trying to shield her, only to be beaten alongside her. In the aftermath, she wouldn't trade to thank me. She would push me away, her eyes filled with a resentful fire. "This is all your fault," she trade hiss, her voice trembling. "If you had never become a superior omega, none of this would have happened. We are a family of inferiors. Why did you have to be different?" I couldn't understand. I had always been told that being a superior omega was a gift, a blessing. Why, then, was I being punished for it? Why was my own family, the very people who should have celebrated me, the first to cast me out? No one had an answer. The questions festered inside me, unanswered and raw. When I turned 18, the fragile illusion of our family finally dissolved. My mother, worn down by years of abuse, simply vanished, running away with another man. That left only me to bear the full brunt of my father's self-loathing. His debts had spiraled out of control, and the loan sharks he owed were no longer patient. Men with cruel eyes and tattoos covering their arms became frequent visitors, their shadows darkening our doorway. 3 days before my college entrance exams, the day that was supposed to mark the beginning of my future, my life ended. I came home to find those men waiting. My father, with a sickening, fawning smile on his face, pushed me towards them. "Gentlemen," he slurred, his voice dripping with false charm, "look what I have. A superior omega, the highest quality." His pheromones like ilang-ilang. Intoxicating, isn't it? Perhaps if you have a little euros fun with him, you could see your way to forgiving a small portion of my debt. Most of them were low-grade alphas, their pheromones a chaotic, acrid mess. They crowded around me, nostrils flaring, sniffing the air like animals. Their expressions were a grotesque mix of disgust and raw hunger. I was still young, unable to fully control my own scent, and the shame was a physical weight, pressing down on me, suffocating me. I tried to run, to escape the predatory circle closing in, but my body betrayed me. The sheer force of their combined alpha pheromones made my legs tremble, my muscles turning to water. The final, most crushing betrayal came when my own father blocked my path. He unleashed his own meager alpha presence, a pathetic display of dominance, yet enough to hold me in place. "I raised you for 18 years," he roared, his face contorted in a mask of righteous fury. "Isn't it time you did your duty? You will not run. You are an omega. So what if you are Euro's trade re-superior? I can still bring you to your knees." He turned back to the leering debt collectors, his smile returning, obsequious and vile. "I've heard," he continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "that superior omegas are incredibly fertile. A high chance of producing a superior alpha heir. Do what you will. It doesn't matter if he gets pregnant. Just euros, just forgive some of my debt. And please, don't hit me anymore." Their greedy eyes devoured me. The air was thick with their pungent, mixed scents, a nauseating assault on my senses. My vision blurred, my ears filled with a high-pitched ringing, and a single, desperate thought consumed me: it would be better to die. Just as the darkness threatened to swallow me whole, a jacket was thrown over my head, enveloping me in the crisp, clean scent of green tangerine wine. It was a lifeline in a sea of filth. My eyes, struggling to focus, flickered towards the doorway. Matthew stood there, a silhouette framed by the harsh light, his expression an unreadable mask of cold indifference. His lips were moving, but the ringing in my ears was too loud for me to hear his words. I only knew that the circle of predators around me dissolved, the men stumbling back, their bravado evaporating into pure terror. My father tried to make a run for it but was caught, thrown to the ground. There was a sickening crack as two of his fingers were severed from his right hand, but even that wasn't enough. The debt he euros trade D accrued was more than a life could repay. And so I was the price. I was taken away by Matthew. Matthew was their leader, the true power behind the thugs who had terrorized my father. He was only 4 years my senior, a young heir to an underworld empire, sent out to learn the family business. Managing the casino was his first assignment, and my father was just another deadbeat on his long list of clients. He never should have been there personally. It was boredom, a whim, that brought him to my door that day. His subordinates were taking too long, and he came to see what the holdup was. He found me. He presented me with a choice, his voice low and devoid of emotion. "You can have one of them," he said, gesturing to his terrified men, "or all of them. Or you can have me." In that moment, surrounded by monsters, I chose the devil I didn't know. I chose him. That night, with trembling hands, I fumbled with the buckle of his belt, my voice a barely audible whisper. "It's my first time," I pleaded. "Please, euros, be gentle." When it was over, a sliver of moonlight filtered through the heavy, dark curtains. Staring at that pale beam of light, I gathered every ounce of courage I had left. "Can I still go to school?" I asked the darkness. Matthew, seemingly sated and drifting towards sleep, wrapped an arm around my waist and patted my head, his touch surprisingly soft. "Sure," he murmured, his voice thick with drowsiness. "You're not our prisoner." In that small moment of unexpected kindness, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, life wouldn't be so hard after all. But I never made it back to school. During the college entrance exam, my mind was a fog. The words on the page swam before my eyes, familiar characters that formed incomprehensible strings of nonsense. The intelligence that had once been my pride, the very thing that defined a superior omega, had abandoned me. I, who had always been at the top of my class, was now left staring at a test I couldn't understand. I had become stupid. When Matthew saw my abysmal scores, a faint smile played on his lips. "It doesn't matter if you're a little stupid," he said, his tone dismissive yet oddly comforting. "You're with me now. I'll take care of you." I spent 3 years by his side. I learned to be quiet, to be obedient, to make myself as small and unobtrusive as possible. I never caused him any trouble. I was the only omega in his world of hardened alphas, a silent shadow in his life. Then, in the 4th year, the impossible happened. I was pregnant. By the time I realized it, I was already 4 months along. A cold dread pooled in my stomach, a fear so potent it tasted like bile. Matthew was always careful, always used protection. The immediate thought was that he would suspect me, that he would see me as my father saw my mother, unfaithful, deceitful. That he would rage, that he would hit me. I made an appointment to have it secretly aborted. The doctor advised against it, of the severe physical risks, but I didn't care. As I lay on the cold operating table, my only thought was how to hide this from Matthew. The next thing I knew, he was there, standing over me, his presence filling the sterile room. And just as I had feared, he was furious. "You were going to get rid of my child," he growled, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. After the initial shock, a question bubbled up from my fear. "You're not yours, you're not suspicious that it might not be yours." He let out a harsh, humorless laugh and raked his fingers through the hair at the nape of my neck. The familiar, ticklish sensation made me shiver. "I'm not that stupid," he said, his voice softening slightly. "Besides, I've marked you. Who would dare touch what's mine?" My hand instinctively went to the back of my neck, feeling the slightly raised, permanent scar of his teeth. So that was the power of a superior alpha trade S mark. My mother had also been marked by my father, but for her, it had been a brand, not a bond. It hadn't protected her, it had only trapped her, an invisible prison she wore for half her life. "I'm afraid," I mumbled, the words escaping before I could stop them. "I'm afraid of becoming like her." "Will this marker yours, will it be there forever?" The smile vanished from Matthew's eyes. He tilted his head, looking down at me, his gaze intense. "Of course," he said, his voice flat. "Unless you have your gland surgically removed, you will be my omega for the rest of your life." I clutched the back of my neck, shaking my head frantically. "No, it would hurt too much. Don't cut it." Matthew snorted, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. "Good, as long as you know it hurts." He took me from the clinic to a stern, official-looking building where they took my picture, just like criminals on television. I assumed it was because of my father's massive debt. He was afraid I would run, so he was creating a file on me, gathering leverage. The first thing he did when we got home was to hand me a bottle of pills. "Here, take this." I stared at the unmarked container, confused. After finding me at the hospital, He had dragged me through a battery of tests and long consultations with doctors, leaving my head spinning. "What is this?" I asked. "Can I not take it? I feel fine." Matthew watched me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he simply opened the bottle, counted out the pills, and pushed them into my mouth. "You're too thin," he stated gruffly. "They're nutritional supplements." No supplements I had ever seen came in a blank white bottle. My hand rested on my belly. "Are there euros good for the baby?" I asked softly. He paused just for a second before nodding. "Of course." A wave of relief washed over me. "Okay, then I'll take them." I took the medicine obediently every day, but something had changed. Matthew stopped touching me. He gave me the master bedroom and moved into the guest room down the hall. A profound sadness settled over me, but I didn't dare ask why. I was just collateral, a means to repay a debt. I had no right to delude myself into thinking a child could change my status. In the dead of night, I would hug the clothes he'd worn that day, the faint scent of green tangerine wine the only comfort I had. One morning, he caught me. He didn't scold me. Instead, a strange, meaningful smile touched his lips. From then on, he started changing his clothes 3 times a day, leaving the freshly worn garments for me to find. Every heat cycle euros trade D had since coming to live with him. He had been there to see me through it. But this time, he was gone. After I became pregnant, he forbade me from accompanying him on his business, insisting I rest at home. One afternoon, I overheard the guards he'd posted outside my door talking in low voices. The boss went to handle that trouble with his fiancée copyright, one said. "Yeah, I heard the big boss arranged an omega for him." In that instant, as if triggered by the words themselves, my heat hit me like a tidal wave. The guards panicked, one scrambling to call Matthew while the other ran to find inhibitors. In their brief moment of distraction, I slipped out. I had to find him. My mind was a chaotic storm of instinct and desperation. I wandered the streets aimlessly, lost and disoriented. Alphas were drawn to my uncontrolled pheromones, surrounding me like sharks sensing blood. The noise was deafening, the mix of their scents overpowering. My body ached, my head throbbed. Suddenly, a sharp slap snapped my head to the side. A beautiful, furious omega stood before me. "You're just clinging to Matthew for his money, aren't you?" He spat, his voice dripping with contempt. "How much have you taken from him? That money should have been mine. Spit it out." I hugged my head, shaking it back and forth, trying to form the words to deny his accusation, but before I could speak, the world went black. When I came to, Matthew was there, and the beautiful omega was standing beside him. Matthew's face was as dark as a thundercloud. He asked me what happened. All the other alphas were gone, as if they had been a figment of my fevered imagination. But the stinging pain in my swollen cheek was real, and a loud buzzing filled my right ear, deafening me to all other sounds. I ignored the deafness, pointing a trembling finger at the other omega. "Your fiancée copyright," I said, my voice hoarse. "He said I took your money. He told me to give it back. I told him I didn't, and euros, and he hit me." I sounded like a child tattling, desperately hoping Matthew would defend me, would send this other person away. Matthew glanced at his fiancée copyright, his expression grim. He rubbed his temples wearily. "Mr. Samuel, you should go. We'll speak later." Then, he turned his furious gaze on me. "I told you not to run around. Why don't you ever listen?" My heart shattered. In that moment, I finally understood. I was just a toy, a secret he kept out of boredom, someone unfit to be seen in the light of day. I fell silent. He took me home and began applying medicine to my bruised face, his touch rough with barely contained rage. When he was finished, he hurled the jar of ointment against the wall, smashing it to pieces. I could hear him outside, tearing into his subordinates, his voice a torrent of fury. He stormed back in and glared at me. "Speak," he commanded. "Have you gone mute? Don't you know you have a fever? Couldn't you have made a single phone call? You just had to run. Do you have any idea what would have happened if I'd been a minute later?" I hugged my knees to my chest, refusing to look at him. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, a sob would escape, that tears would fall. And I was a man. I couldn't be so pathetic. After that, my world shrank to the size of our apartment. He wouldn't let me out at all, and he started bringing his fiancée tilde copyright Samuel over. They would watch me, observe my every move, and then whisper to each other in low tones I couldn't quite hear. A bitter hatred for Matthew began to fester inside me, but it was a pointless emotion. I had no right to hate him. I was nothing to him. I grew even quieter, my days spent staring blankly at the walls. Matthew increased the dosage of the strange medicine, and I took it without question, swallowing whatever he gave me. 4 months later, I went into premature labor. I gave birth to a son, a little boy who was far too small and unnervingly quiet. He was like a tiny kitten, fragile and weak, and he lived in an incubator from the moment he was born. A wave of guilt washed over me whenever I looked at him. I had brought him into the world as an illegitimate child. What kind of life would he have? Would he, like me, be trapped, devoid of freedom and happiness? But I didn't have much time to worry. Just as I was finishing my postpartum recovery, Samuel came to see me. He told me how much he hated that Matthew had marked me. Then he picked up the fork from my dinner tray and drove it into my gland. The pain was excruciating, but the fear was worse. I was terrified that if I told Matthew, he would choose Samuel over me. So I said nothing. I hid the wound, hoping it would heal. But Matthew was busy, always busy, and by the time he noticed, the infection had set in, the tissue turning black. His rage was terrifying, his bloody fist against the wall a testament to his fury. He took me to the hospital, and they removed what was left of my gland. The permanent mark was gone. He didn't believe me when I told him Samuel did it. He called me crazy. I didn't argue. I didn't know how. I just buried my face in the pillow, pressing my left ear into the soft fabric. He never knew that my right ear was now useless, filled with a constant, buzzing silence. How could he be so stupid? How could my heart hurt so much? While he was outside talking to the doctor, I slipped away to see my son one last time. Matthew had named him Leo. He was a sickly child, with my eyes large and dark and empty of any real sparkle. Why did he have to have me as his father? He deserved so much better. I took one last look, memorizing his tiny face, and then I turned and walked away. I walked until the city I was born in, the city where Matthew lived, was a distant memory. I walked through old streets and crowded alleys, losing myself in the anonymity of the masses. I ended up in a place called Sidear, a city far away where no one knew my name. I found a room in a rundown part of town and let myself go. I didn't cut my hair or shave my beard. I was a ghost, a shell of a man. Time lost all meaning. A new neighbor, a young elfer named William, asked for my name. I thought for a long time, but nothing came. Seeing my ragged appearance and how I didn't respond to sounds, he started calling me Uncle Deaf. I was too tired to correct him. I couldn't remember my own age. My only motivation was borrowing money from him. "William," I'd say, my voice raspy, "lend me some money." He'd scowl. "For wine? No way. You're as stingy as they come." He was a bad-tempered alpha, but without my glands or pheromones, I was no longer susceptible to their influence. I wasn't afraid of him. He was pregnant, and he strayed deep at his swelling belly. "I have to be stingy. I'm saving up for the baby. Can't you drink less?" I never listened. I collected bottles, did odd jobs, anything to earn enough for another drink. Getting drunk was the only time I felt okay. It felt like I was forgetting something important, something painful. Sometimes, looking at William's belly, a faint memory would stir. I think I had a baby once. But with who? And where was the child now? I didn't know, and a deep, instinctual fear kept me from trying to find out. William was a good man. He often shared his meals with me. He had a daughter, Arver, who was impossibly cute. I found a new purpose working to buy her pretty dresses, tasty snacks, and fun toys. She adored me, and her laughter filled me with a reason to live. In the blink of an eye, Arver was starting kindergarten. One day, William was hit by his susceptible period and asked if I could pick her up from school. I hesitated, then nervously washed my hair, showered, and shaved for the first time in years. I borrowed one of William's suits. It was a little big, but when I looked in the mirror, I saw a man who looked almost decent. I couldn't embarrass Arver. The kindergarten was in a fancy part of town. When I arrived, Strayed's eyes went wide. "You're not a grandpa," she exclaimed, throwing her arms around me. "You're so handsome." I smiled, picking her up. As we were leaving, a little boy, one of her classmates, grabbed the corner of my jacket. He didn't say a word, just clung to me, his dark eyes staring up at me with an unnerving intensity. When his father rushed over, he too stopped and stared at me, his eyes suddenly turning red. I smiled awkwardly. "Sir, aren't you taking your child home?" He seemed to shudder back to reality. Instead of prying his son off me, he covered his own face with his hands. "This child of yours, he has autism," he said, his voice strained. "He rarely takes to anyone. Could you maybe play with him for a little while? I can pay you." I looked down at the little boy, and for some reason, the thought of taking his money felt wrong. "All right," I agreed. "I like kids." I took Arver's hand in one and the little boy's in the other and started for home. The man followed us. He'd asked if Arver was my daughter. When I explained she was my neighbor's child, his expression seemed to soften. He introduced himself as they walked, and it turned out he knew William. While they talked, I took the children for a walk down the old street. A vendor was making sugar figurines. Arver wanted one shaped like a leaf. I asked the little boy what he wanted. He just looked at me quietly for a long moment before saying, slowly and clearly, "Leo wants Leo's dad." So his name was Leo. "I'm not your dad, little guy," I said gently. "Okay, Dad," he replied without missing a beat. I decided not to correct him again. I handed him his finished sugar lion. He gave me a stiff, polite smile. "Thank you, Dad." A strange pang went through my heart. I squatted down and stroked his soft hair. "Leo, where is your other dad?" Confusion clouded his big eyes. "You're my dad, Dad." I felt a surge of anger. Who were these parents who left their child so confused? That man who brought him, who was he? Leo, licking his candy, replied after a moment, "That's Daddy." It seemed he just called every male figure in his life Dad or Daddy. I felt a rush of relief. "Does your daddy treat you well?" I asked. He nodded gently. "Daddy is very good to me, Dad. He raised me all by himself. Even when I make him cry because I'm angry, he never forgets to make my milk, Dad. All by himself." That man was tall and handsome, his pheromones rich and pleasant. It seemed unlikely, but it wasn't my business. I just wanted to know the child was happy. "That's good, Leo. You have to grow up happy." I stood up, holding a small hand in each of mine, and we walked down the street. When I turned back, the man was standing a distance away, watching us with the strangest expression. Something between a smile and a sob. Curious, I walked back towards him. "Are you two done talking?" I asked. He nodded, then squatted down to touch Leo's face. He looked up at me, his eyes glistening. "His name is Leo," he said. "And I'm Matthew." The name meant nothing to me. "Oh," I said, letting go of Leo's hand and taking a step back. "Well, you can take him home now. I'm hungry." I took Arver's hand, ready to leave, but was startled by a piercing scream. "Daddy is bad. Leo doesn't want Daddy to go. Daddy can't go." I turned to see Leo smashing his sugar figurine against Matthew's immaculate suit. His small face was contorted with rage as he stomped his feet and beat his little fists against Matthew's legs, tears streaming from his eyes. Matthew forced a pained smile, scooping up the struggling child and expertly packing his back. "Daddy's not going anywhere," he soothed. "Be a good boy. Or what if your other dad doesn't like you anymore?" Leo instantly went still, his wet eyes turning to me, filled with fear. "Leo doesn't want to be disliked, Daddy." My heart ached for him. I gently wiped his tears away. "I don't dislike you, Leo." Matthew looked at me, a desperate hope in his eyes. "William is busy. Why don't we have a meal together? My treat, to thank you for playing with Leo." I sized him up. He looked rich. "Can I order a lot of meat?" I asked. When he nodded, I rattled off a list of my favorite dishes, feeling a little guilty at my extravagance. He just stared at me for a long time. "Do you like those dishes?" he murmured, almost to himself. "I just found out. Matthew stayed the night in the old town, buying a dilapidated apartment right next to mine. He asked me how €1 trade he afforded my place. I told him the truth euros that when I first arrived, I had a mutton fat white jade pendant around my neck. A man offered to trade me the apartment for it, and assuming the jade was fake, I jumped at the chance. Matthew Eurostrade's face went through a bizarre series of colors before he turned away, muttering, "Self-inflicted. As long as you're alive, that's good." I slammed my wine glass down. "Do you know me?" I demanded. "Do you know my name?" He poured me another drink. "Yes," he said softly. "Your birthday is October 10th. You're 26 years old." A chill went down my spine. How did he know more about me than I knew about myself? Am I the one you've been looking for?" Matthew's shoulders trembled as he fought back a laugh. "What's so funny?" I snapped. "I'm laughing because you've finally gotten smarter," he said. "Am I really Leo's father?" He nodded. "Thinner euros, why did I leave?" Matthew Eurostrade's face fell. He poured himself a full glass of wine and downed it in one go. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice thick with a pain I didn't understand. "Maybe because I didn't watch over you well enough. He hired me to take Leo to and from school for an absurd amount of money, paying me in cash since I had no ID. He hovered around constantly until his business partner, Sebastian, dragged him back to the company. "Don't run around," he told me and Leo before he left. The words echoed strangely in my head. A moment later, a sharp ringing pierced the silence in my deaf right ear. Leo looked up at me, his little face creased with worry. "Dad, does your ear hurt?" He tried to pull me towards a hospital, repeating things Matthew must have told him about seeing a doctor when you're sick. He was a good boy. An inexplicable guilt washed over me whenever I looked at him. I lost him. The thought was a constant whisper in the back of my mind. I resisted the hospital, distracting him with a trip to the mall instead. As we walked inside, a woman grabbed my shoulder. "Michael, is that you?" I turned to face a thin, haggard middle-aged woman I didn't recognize. Her cloudy eyes darted from me to Leo. "You're married? You have a child?" she asked in disbelief, her hands grabbing at Leo's expensive clothes. "Where did you get the money for this? Did you marry someone rich? Where's your father? Is he living the good life with you, too?" Her voice grew sharp with resentment. "Sorry, you have the wrong person," I said calmly, pulling her hand off Leo. She went berserk. "Wrong person. I gave birth to you, October 10th, 1999. Your father named you Michael. Now that you've made it, you want to disown your own mother. You ungrateful wretch." Every word was a hammer blow to my fragile peace of mind. She started pounding on my shoulders, crying hysterically, pulling a small, terrified girl from behind her. "Michael, have pity on us. Your sister is still young. Give your mother some money so she can have a good life." "I don't have any money," I said, my head buzzing. "I don't believe you," she shrieked. "You're my son. Your money is my money. If you don't give it to me, I'll sue you for abandonment." The words were so familiar, but I couldn't place them. I wanted to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. Leo, seeing my distress, started hitting the woman with his tiny fists. "Let go of my dad, you bad woman. Daddy told me to protect Dad." The woman's eyes lit up with a sudden, greedy understanding. "I see. You have no money, but the alpha you're with does. It's good to be a superior omega, isn't it? Hooking a rich man. You should be grateful to me for giving you that chance." Her mouth kept moving, but the sound faded away. I squatted on the ground, my mind a blank fog, a heavy weight on my chest making it hard to breathe. I was sick. I clung to Leo like he was the only thing keeping me from drowning. When Matthew arrived, for a split second, I thought I saw someone standing beside him, the ghost of a beautiful omega. My heart clenched. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I opened them again, it was only Matthew. He strode towards me, but I instinctively scrambled backwards, falling to the ground. His outstretched hands froze in midair, his expression turning ugly. He turned and snarled at the woman, driving her away. With his back still to me, he asked, his voice shaking, "Michael, are you afraid of me?" I nodded, then shook my head, confused. I wasn't afraid of him. I was afraid of this feeling, the sense that something terrible was about to happen. Words tumbled out of my mouth, dredged up from a place I didn't know existed. "You don't trust me," I mumbled, the past and present blurring together. "You trust your fiancé tilde copyright. I'm nothing." Matthew whipped around, grabbing my shoulders, his grip painfully tight. I flinched, shoving his hands away. "Stay away from me," I gasped, the phantom ache of old wounds suddenly real. "It hurts all over when you touch me." his betrayal, the memory of his fiancée tilde copyright, the loss of my son, the agony of my severed glandular euros, it all came rushing back in a devastating, unstoppable flood. The life I had built in this quiet town, the peaceful ignorance of being Uncle Death, was gone, washed away by the tide of my own returning memories. I stared at Matthew, the man who was both the source of my deepest pain and the father of my child, and for the first time in years, I saw him clearly. And all I could feel was the profound, aching chasm between us. What happens when the past you ran from finally catches up? And can a love built on debt and misunderstanding ever truly be healed? Do you think Matthew can ever truly earn back Michael's trust after everything that happened? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one.